Hello, I'm Andy, a game developer and community manager at Unit 2 Games in Meta. In this series of videos, we're exploring how mechanics, loops, and progression combine to create fulfilling and social worlds that people love. So far, we've looked at mechanics, which are single components of what the player can do in the world. And we also looked at core loops, which is a combination of mechanics that support repeated sequence of actions. In this video, we're going to look at how we encourage players to come back to our world using progression and retention mechanics. You can think of these as player actions day to day. Ultimately, the best reason for someone to come back is because they had a good time. So what does that look like in Horizon Worlds? Well, it could be that they shared a memorable moment with a friend, or they enjoyed the world's mechanics and core loop. They like that type of thing. Or it could be that they felt really fulfilled and rewarded for participating in the world, be that on their own with the mechanics or in a social group. So this is one reason you really need to nail your mechanics and core loop, because they can bring people back on their own. On top of that, you can also, one classic tactic that's used to bring people back is to include new content from time to time. So this could be anything really, like wearables or weapons, map updates or new areas, some new features or some additional bonus content, or even some seasonal updates depending on whether it's winter or spring or what's going on, or a combination of any of these things in one single moment in order to gather everyone for that special day. However, one of the problems with using content to bring people back is that it can take the largest amount of effort from us as a creator, and the novelty for players can quickly wear off. So one thing I would suggest is, if you're going to add or give content through your world to lots of people, is to consider, rather than making it available to everyone immediately, consider drip feeding it to players as they play through your world. So this could be to do with rewarding them as they achieve milestones or goals. So let's talk about goals. One world could offer some specific long-term goals, and these could show players different reward pathways. And one of the best ways to do that in Horizon Worlds is to use the quest system. And it's easy to implement goals, and it also shows players their progress and the achievements they already have made. When a player achieves a goal, we need to make sure that they feel rewarded as well. So this is where our content comes in. Rewards could include things like completing a quest on its own, which already gives players a feeling of accomplishment, but also including things like cosmetics and weapons and map access and VIP areas and that kind of stuff. Maybe some new features or new abilities that they didn't have before, or even something like improving their stats. So you could make it so that they run faster or they jump higher, or even the stats of certain objects that they own. Another thing that you could offer players as a reward for completing goals is in-world currency. And this is a really nice way to do things, because you can essentially, players can use in-world currency to unlock any of the other things that we've just spoken about, but in the order that they desire. And they're not necessarily tied to completing a certain goal to getting a certain reward. You can make it an intermediary so that they get the currency that they actually need to get that reward. And as an additional benefit of in-world currency, it offers some really simple opportunities for in-world purchases. As well as achieving goals by playing the game, you can also consider rewarding players for participating in the metagame. The metagame in this scenario is essentially the macro game loop, thinking about the player's journey through the game day to day. So we could think about this in terms of goals as things like daily check-ins and streaks, or even things like social events like tournaments or leagues or parties, or competitions. We could also think about daily tasks, so something that players need to do every day, or even a bank of tasks that swaps out different days of the week. As well as this, we might want to look at research or building things. So where players can start an action and then they actually need to come back much, much later, or even days later when it's completed. So let's brainstorm some long-term goals for players to come back to our target practice game that we worked on in videos 1 and 2. We can start with core loop goals. So these will be goals that are related to actually playing the core loop. Except these goals are based on the idea that players are going to play more than one round of the core loop. So we're trying to scale up the objectives for the player. So with things like hit X projectiles, we would do incremental milestones. So hit 10 projectiles, hit 30, hit 60, hit 100. And so you're not going to hit 100 projectiles the first time you play the core loop, but we're encouraging them to come back and try again and to keep hitting projectiles. We can also look at brainstorming ideas around the metagame, which is more to do with them coming into the world in some way. It may not even have much to do with the core loop at all. It's more like things about coming back a certain amount of days in a row, or even doing daily tasks, which might be small things like hit one projectile, upgrade your slingshot once, and that kind of thing. And then finally, we can brainstorm ideas around other ways to play our game using exactly the same mechanics. So for example, we might, instead of goaling around how many projectiles we hit, we might do something around how many projectiles we miss and like offer a different way of playing the same game. But by leveraging brainstorms around these three key areas, you can think about the medium, long term, and the variety that you can bring to your game through retention mechanics and goals. To test and balance your longer term retention mechanics, you could look at creating a spreadsheet where you can visualize different situations on a player's journey. So you might want to think about, okay, a play session is 3 to 5 minutes and I'm expecting a player to do 2 or 3 of these a day. So how long is it going to take them to unlock certain unlockables in your world? It's also a great way to test balancing for any in-game enemies, weapons, and pickups. And you'll quickly see how things like XP and in-world currencies scale as people unlock rewards. In this video, we explored how our core loop supports long-term goals. Player motivation is the root of players wanting to return to the world. So we have to offer something for players that extends the enjoyment of the game from the minute-to-minute core loops into goals that require multiple play sessions. And we describe the importance of milestones here, showing players their progress clearly and the different types of long-term goals that you might want to include in your game. So this wraps up the series on mechanics, loops, and progression for short loop worlds. Hopefully this series has been interesting. I'm all open for feedback, so please share that with us however you can, and I look forward to seeing you in Horizon Worlds.